joining in from India, and a very, very good evening for all those joining in from United States. Thank you so much for taking out time, and I welcome you all to another wonderful and a very, very focused round of of this web interaction of Simple Ed. And this is an honor once again because we have partnered with Pearson PTE Academic for all these webinars. So Simple Ed is very, very proud of that. And this is an exclusive session for students who are pursuing their bachelor's in pharmacy, and they are looking for opportunities in United States for their higher studies, for further studies, could be masters and even beyond. And this is an exclusive session that we are doing along with the KIET group of institutions based in India. And we have the students who are in different years in their bachelor's programs in over 4 years in KIT, and I'm sure there would be many who would be wanting to explore this opportunity of moving to United States. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining in, and just to let everyone know that we are live on Facebook as well. So the link that you can see on your the chat area on the right, you can maybe share this with your friends who are not able to join in over here. They can join us on Facebook as well. All right, so we are expecting more students to join in, and the numbers are gradually increasing. All right, wonderful. So let's move ahead. Okay, so my name is Khwaja, and I am Director of University Relations for Simple Ed, and I am co-hosting this. It's an honor to co-host this with so many wonderful people around. Of course, we have Dr. Preeti Chitkara, who is the person representing responsible for international relations from the KIT group of institutions. Thank you so much, Dr. Chitkara, for joining in. Then, of course, it's an honor always to co-host with the Pearson team, Shilin Kustain, who heads marketing strategy, and Shelly Jain, who is the recognition service manager with Pearson. Thank you so much, ladies, for taking out time and joining in. All right, and most importantly, a very, very big thank you to our expert panelists out there. First of all, Dr. Terence Graham, because it's very late in the night there, so taking out time on a Friday evening, I think it's definitely very, very commendable. So thank you so much for that. So Dr. Terence Graham is the Senior International Officer for the School of Pharmacy, University of Southern California. And thank you so much, Dr. Anam Tanveer, who is a physician in San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, I'm sure the students will be able to kind of connect more with Khyati, because she was there as a student from India and she is a practicing pharmacist currently. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining in. And as I mentioned, that this is a very, very focused session, and we want the students of pharmacy to explore the options that they have ahead in United States. So to begin with, I would like to invite Dr. Anam Tanveer, who would give us an overview, because she is a practicing physician, and so she would be able to give us an overview of how things go about in this particular field.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Anam Tanveer. I practice family medicine in San Francisco. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on how a medical provider interacts with the pharmacist. So I work both in a hospital setting and currently I work in outpatient clinic setting. So I have experiences in both fields with interacting with pharmacists. So talking about how a physician interacts with one in a hospital, actually there was a lot of direct one-on-one communication with the pharmacist as soon as a patient gets admitted to a hospital. The pharmacist, in conjunction with the admitting physicians, work together to do medication reconciliation, which is basically making sure that the medications that the patients were taking at home are either being continued or appropriately being discontinued while being hospitalized, which medications the dosage should be changed. So the physician and the pharmacist work very closely. Additionally, I found the pharmacist to be a great support system in settings such as middle of the night, you're admitting or you're treating a patient who may not be doing very well and need urgent changes in medications, and communicating with the pharmacists who were available at all hours of the day and night in a hospital was integral to taking care of the patient. In contrast to the hospital setting, now that I'm working in an outpatient clinic setting, unfortunately, I don't get to interact on a day to day basis with the pharmacist because most clinics don't have pharmacists. But when I do prescribe medications, I electronically transmit those, and the pharmacist gets it to the patient's preferred pharmacy. And a lot of times, I will go ahead and pick up the phone and communicate with the pharmacist to elaborate on any miscommunication about dosing or provide further explanations. So that interaction is still there, however, not as direct as it is in the hospital setting. So I hope that provides a little bit of an overview of how a general practitioner communicates and interacts with a pharmacist in a hospital versus a clinical setting. Hwaja, I believe.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Anam. And I'm sure that will definitely help students understand things better. All right. Can I now request Fareen to please bring in Dr. Terence um, and make him the presenter, please? Students, I would encourage you to go ahead and write in your questions in the chat box. If whatever comes to your mind, we will definitely go ahead and address them right after the presentations. All right. Dr. Terence, you could go ahead and, yeah, there we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
All right. Yes. All right. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Khwaja, for inviting me, and thanks to Dr. Tanvir for providing that perspective, the physician's perspective on interactions with the pharmacist. I think it's important to recognize that the role of the pharmacist in the United States can differ significantly from that in other countries, and understanding that relationship to physicians and to others in the medical field is important to convey. So I'm joining you all. It's nighttime here in Los Angeles, California, where I am Friday night. We're still. It's been a lot of late nights this week, though, so it's not a problem for me to join you. We're watching to try to understand what the results of our election are. So there's still no definitive decision there. Anyway, so the University of Southern California School of Pharmacy is transforming the face of pharmacy. The pharmacy profession is really at an inflection point, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our school. I'm going to provide an overview of the academics at our school, some of the programs that you would be able to pursue in the School of Pharmacy, and then I'll talk about careers and some different directions that you can go. And we're very happy that we have with us tonight a recent alumna of USC School of Pharmacy, Kathy, who will be talking about her experience here at the University of Southern California. Next slide, please. Okay, pharmacy careers, next slide there. So just briefly about the University of Southern California. We're a university that was founded in the late 19th century in California. So one of the oldest private institutions in the west of the United States. We are a leading private research university, generally considered top 20, top 25 of all universities in the United States. We have about 48,000 students and more than 4,000 faculty members, 23 academic colleges, so a wide range of disciplines. And we are located in the heart of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the second largest city in the United States, a very diverse and dynamic city on the Pacific coast. So a lot of connections between Southern California, California generally, and Asia, a lot of communication back and forth. Los Angeles is a great place to study. Our students really thrive from all of the opportunities there are in Los Angeles. We have I'll talk a little bit more about that, but a wide range of clinics, hospitals, community pharmacies, and other partners throughout the region that we work with. Our students do internships, do practical experience at those places. So a wealth of opportunities. We have a global network of alumni, and we have a global network of offices. USC has an office in Mumbai, so we have permanent staff on the ground there in India as a representative. I generally make trips to India at least once or twice a year, but obviously, so I'd like to be there with you in person next time. We'll see how things develop. Next slide, please. So specifically about the School of Pharmacy. So we are one of the most innovative schools of pharmacy in the United States. We actually are the first school of pharmacy to develop the PharmD program, the Doctor of Pharmacy program, which is the standard program for licensed pharmacists in the United States. So that we are actually the first university that created that degree. In general, we're very highly ranked as a school of pharmacy. Pharmacy Technician Guide, which is a publication for the profession, ranks us as the #1 pharmacy school in the United States. And the criteria that they use are really important criteria. It's not just word of mouth. It's not just reputation. It's based on the pass rates of NAPLEX, which is the licensure exam, the nationwide licensing examination for pharmacists. So very high pass rates, over 95% of our students who take that test pass it. Our research activity, very diverse and very highly regarded. High graduation rate, student to faculty ratio, and our faculty credentials. So all of those are really important indicators of our quality, the quality of our academics, and so that's why we have a very high ranking from that professional publication. U.S. News and World Report, which is probably the best known rankings, puts us as the #1 private pharmacy school in the United States. We are a part of University of Southern California here in the heart of Los Angeles, but we are on a separate campus called the Health Sciences Campus, where our School of Medicine is, School of Dentistry, School of Pharmacy, and we are there are several different research institutions there, and there are 4 different hospitals that are adjacent to our school. And those hospitals, as Dr. Tanvir was mentioning, all of our pharmacists, they have an opportunity to go through rotations and interact with physicians and work with patients in those hospital settings, which is crucial practical training that we provide to our students. And a global alumni network. So we'll hear from Kyati shortly about her experience, but we do have alumni around the world in the field of pharmacy. There's a lot of strong connections with USC. And just here in Southern California, more than half of the pharmacists practicing in Southern California got their degrees at the USC School of Pharmacy. So that also really contributes to this network that we have here. We can pick up the phone and call our alumni, and they're working here as pharmacists, but also working in industry, Some major pharmaceutical companies have a presence here in Southern California, and our alumni often go and work at those companies. Some of our alumni are the leaders, executives of those companies, CEOs and others. So that opens up great opportunities for our students. I saw before we started the mention of OPT, optional practical training. So once you complete your degree here, there's a lot of opportunities for you to continue to work here in the United States, whether it's private industry or in one of those clinics or pharmacies that are here in Southern California and part of our alumni network. Next slide, please. Just briefly about our vision and mission. I think we can go on to the next slide from here. Our academic departments, and here I'll talk a little bit about the programs that we have, but we have 4 academic departments. First is clinical pharmacy. And in clinical pharmacy, most of the coursework really is focused on preparing students to be practicing pharmacists, so preparing them for licensure, a lot of patient interaction, as well as the basic science that's required for pharmacists. So that department and the primary degree that we offer there is the Pharm D degree. That's a 4-year professional degree here in the United States. And the 4th year of that professional degree is not classroom, it's doing practice rotations. So going and doing a 6-week rotation in a hospital pharmacy, 6 weeks rotation in a community pharmacy, and several other, a total of over 1,400 hours of practice through those rotations that you have to do prior to licensure. We also have pharmacology and pharmaceutical sciences department, and this is really the hard sciences of pharmacy. This is drug development and delivery, those sorts of mechanisms, drugs and drug interactions. Some of the degrees that we have there, we have a Master's of Science in Molecular Pharmacology and Toxicology, Master's of Science in Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics, a Master's of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, and we also have PhD tracks in all 3 of those areas as well. Next is the pharmaceutical and health economics. And so this is a different side of pharmacy, really looking at pharmacy policy, at the way insurance companies operate in the United States and interact with drug companies. And so that there's programs there in healthcare decision analysis, HCDA we call it, healthcare decision analysis. So that's most of our graduates from that program go and work in industry on a lot of the business aspects of the pharmaceutical industry. We also have a new program, an MS, a Master's of Science in biopharmaceutical marketing. So there, the knowledge of pharmacy really is very helpful in looking at aspects related to bringing those drugs to market effectively. And then lastly, we have a department in regulatory and quality sciences and several different master's programs in that field. MS in management of drug development, MS in medical product quality, MS in regulatory management, and MS in regulatory science. We also have a doctorate in that field as well. And I'll just add that we also have many dual degrees, and some of our students choose to do, for example, a Pharm D degree alongside a Master's of Science in pharmaceutical sciences. So more emphasis on the basic sciences, but still getting a license as a pharmacist. We also have partnerships with our School of Business, where you can do an MBA together with a Pharm D. And so, very, very strong credential for going into practice and running your own pharmacy or going into industry. We have a Pharm D JD in partnership with our law school, so looking at more of the legal aspects of the pharmaceutical industry. So there's a lot of different options for degrees at our school. Let's go to the next slide. These are several of our research centers. So research is certainly core to what we do as a school of pharmacy. I mentioned all of the opportunities for practical experience, and that's certainly a very important part of this. But pharmacy is also very much about science, about the development of new therapeutics, new drugs, and then how to use those in treatment. Next slide, please. We are a very globally minded school, very, very international. USC, our university as a whole, is the top 2 universities, probably with NYU, in terms of the number of international students who study at USC. So it's a very diverse student body. I already mentioned that Los Angeles is an incredibly diverse and vibrant city. So we are very welcoming to students from all around the world. And we have partnerships all around the world, several in India, partnerships that we work on both with industry partners as well as universities in India that we are developing partnerships with. Next slide, please. This is just a quick snapshot of where all of our students have come from. This is just the School of Pharmacy. So we've had students coming from 44 different countries over the last 10 years or so to pursue their degrees here at the School of Pharmacy. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to shift and talk a little bit about careers, career directions. Yes, let's start with that one. And here I kind of broke it down by degree, and so you can see with the PharmD, as I mentioned, is the 4-year professional degree that is required for practicing pharmacists. So if you want to pursue a license to practice pharmacy in the United States, you need to earn a PharmD degree, and then you need to pass a national exam called the NAPLEX exam, and then each state has an additional examination that has a little bit more of a focus on the state laws and regulations that you need to pass as well to practice in that state. And in California, it's called the CPJE, the California Pharmacist Jurisprudence Examination. And there's quite a few different directions our PharmD students go in. There's an emphasis on clinical work, working with patients. And so many students go into that clinical pharmacy practice. Community pharmacies, there are many retail pharmacies, well-known chains across the United States like Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, but also big retailers like Costco have pharmacies as well. And so there are a lot of job opportunities in those areas for our graduates. The pharmaceutical industry, as I mentioned, Southern California has an abundance of big pharma companies here in the area. And so often students, if they choose that rather than work in a patient setting, then they pursue opportunities in industry. Government agencies are also interested in hiring people with a PharmD. For example, the Food and Drug Administration. In fact, one of our rotations that students have an opportunity to do as 4th-year students is with the Food and Drug Administration, which is the main regulating body for food and drugs in the United States. We also have a rotation with the CDC, which deals with infectious diseases in the United States, the primary agency dealing with those. Home health care is a growing area of where there's a need for PharmD students, and hospital pharmacies as well. As I mentioned, we have 4 hospitals right adjacent to our school, but more and more hospitals have their own pharmacies and pharmacists on staff. And as Dr. Tanvir touched upon briefly, that those pharmacists are part of that comprehensive care team. And so they're in consultation with the physicians and with other anesthesiologists and others as part of that care team in a hospital setting. Students who come through our regulatory and quality science department, primarily they're focused on going into private industry. So you see some of the statistics we have there, about 73% of those students do go into private industry. But there are also great opportunities in the public sector, in regulatory bodies, such as the FDA that I mentioned here in the United States, or the CDC, for example, and other agencies dealing with drug regulation and pharmaceutical and medical device regulation. It's a very, very lucrative career. I put in a figure there just for those coming out of regulatory quality sciences. So you see as a sort of starting salary there for our graduates, $150,000. That's significant in the United States. That's attractive to a lot of students. Healthcare decision analysis, I mentioned, is in our health economics department. And those students primarily go into industry, looking at more of the business decision side of pharmaceutical industry. Biopharmaceutical marketing, similarly, these are students going into private industry to work on product development, commercializing products, how to bring those products to market for pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical sciences, really that's the focus is on the basic sciences, on research, and most of those students, a significant percentage of those students, go into private industry to work on drug development for private sector companies. Again, very, very lucrative work in that industry, and it's working in research and drug development in some of the major laboratories and pharmaceutical companies. And lastly, in health economics, those degrees that we have there, more policy oriented, but a lot of demand for our graduates in managed care companies. So these are companies that are common in the United States that put together healthcare provision for students. Also, insurance companies are hiring our graduates to look at healthcare policies. And then the pharmaceutical industry also is very interested in folks with that combination of skills, knowledge about the pharmaceutical industry, but also economics, statistics, and other aspects. The next slide. We survey our students this is specifically for the PharmD program. And so we do conduct a survey at graduation of all of our PharmD students. And this is just some of the data. So you can see where the most recent data from 2019 and then our graduates from just earlier this year in May. And you can see where they're going, what the trends are there, significant number. Really hospital pharmacies are where the largest number of our students are going now. And that's a very, very appealing and very, very competitive, but our graduates are very competitive for those jobs in hospitals. And then next after that would be the community pharmacies, and that could be a chain pharmacy, as I mentioned, a retail pharmacy, or a family-run, owned and operated pharmacy. So those are really the top two directions folks are going to, those independent community pharmacies or chain pharmacies and hospitals. But then you also see students going into clinics and other areas. I can't see my slides. Are the slides still there? There we go. Pharmaceutical industry, so you see a good number and again, this is PharmD only. So those students who do the PharmD are still going into industry. They're very much in demand in the pharmaceutical industry because of their background in both basic sciences, drug development, as well as clinical treatment and how to work with patients and how to use those drugs, or how to provide those drugs in a clinical setting. Okay, next slide. I think that might be. Yeah. Just a few comments about sort of evolving directions, and I titled my presentation "Transforming the Face of Pharmacy," and we do see pharmacy really moving in a different direction, and some of our faculty members as well as our students are really at the cutting edge in some ways of pushing the pharmacy profession to do more and more in the healthcare, in the provision of healthcare, and so an example of that. More and more of our pharmacists are able to do some of the basic treatment that normally would be the realm of physicians. So taking patient vitals, doing patient consultations. For example, as a result of COVID, when immunizations will be coming out, then pharmacists will be able to deliver those immunizations, and that's an important part of the solution, or how to address the problem of COVID and other similar issues. Is that there are 88,000 pharmacies across the United States, and so for a lot of patients, particularly in areas that are less well served by hospitals, for a lot of patients, their primary interactions with a healthcare professional are with a pharmacist. It may be at a retail pharmacy or at a community pharmacy in their neighborhood, and so it's really important that those pharmacists are well trained and able to provide sound medical consultations, medical advice, and if they're able to also give, for example, a vaccine against COVID, that's going to be allow us to scale up the delivery of those vaccines to the level that we need for it to be effective. I mentioned pharmacists as part of these comprehensive care teams. A growing direction for pharmacy, and one of our faculty members is very much leading this charge in California with a group called the California Right Meds Collaborative, looking at population health. So really identifying at-risk populations. Many times that could be homeless population, for example, in California. These or others who have diabetes and COPD and other conditions, chronic conditions, that they're taking medication for those conditions continually. That these comprehensive care teams really focus on those patients and making sure that they are their dosages are the optimal dosages, that they are sticking to the dosages that they need and taking their medicine at the times that they need it, so that they can avoid having some more serious issues with their health that requires them to go to a hospital, for example. And so that's an increasing role for pharmacists together with physicians and other medical care professionals, even with social workers in some cases, and then so providing a holistic, comprehensive care to patients who are most at risk. The other impact of COVID really is the rise, and this was already a direction that was developing in the United States, the rise of telemedicine, and I think COVID has forced us to leap like 10 years ahead in terms of where we would be with telemedicine, and the role of pharmacists in providing those consultations. We have 4 pharmacies at our university, actual working pharmacies, one of which is a pharmacy that does its prescriptions by mail, and so it's strictly a telemedicine operation. And so that's been our busiest pharmacy, as you can imagine, of the past 7 or 8 months. Because of COVID. So that's an important direction for pharmacists. There's increased demand in those areas. Growth in private industry. I think what we're seeing with COVID across the pharmaceutical industry, it's and what I'm hearing from my colleagues in industry is that there's greater collaboration. It's always been a very competitive field, right? But what we're seeing, certainly with working on getting a vaccine ready for COVID and scaling it up and getting it ready, we're seeing greater collaboration among big pharma, but also significant amounts of government funding. The U.S. government is certainly investing quite a bit in development of drugs, vaccines, and therapeutics for COVID. So it is a growth time for the pharmaceutical industry. And that means more opportunities for graduates of our school. And then in regulatory sciences, very much a global field, an effort to really harmonize regulatory frameworks around the world, and so there's a real demand for that around the world. And I think we'll hear a little bit more from Khyati about that. Okay, I think next slide. I think that's it for my presentation. My email is there. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions about. I can go into more specifics about our programs and admissions and that sort of thing. But feel free to reach out.
Dr. Terrence, before we move ahead to Khyati, I think there are a few questions that we have in the chat screen. I think maybe you could address them. Like the first one that Karan Singh is asking is PharmD mandatory for licensing?
So in the United States, yes, there are different ways. Though, if you have a foreign PharmD or the equivalent of a PharmD, then there is a process that you can undergo. You can take what's called the foreign pharmacy equivalency examination, which essentially demonstrates that you have the knowledge that a PharmD has, and then you can take the licensing. So if you pass that, and then you have to do practical rotations, and then you sit for the licensing exam in the United States. So you don't necessarily have to have a U.S. PharmD. If you have a foreign degree that is equivalent to a U.S. PharmD, then there is a pathway to getting a U.S. license that doesn't require you to do an entire PharmD degree. In fact, we have a program. We hope to have it ready by next fall. That's called it's a graduate certificate program that is specifically for people who have a foreign pharmacy degree but want to gain licensure in the United States. So I'd be happy to give you some more information about that.
All right. So there's another one on the screen now. What is the duration of this dual degree courses?
Yeah, that can be individual. So the MBA PharmD, for example, the PharmD requirements, that's 4 years. And depending on the burden of coursework that you're willing to take on, an MBA is typically 2 years as well. And so certainly that can be completed in 6 years. Sometimes students do it a little bit faster because they can take courses in the summertime and really kind of accelerate their studies. So the dual degree with the JD, which is the Juris Doctor, the law degree, that typically takes a JD takes 3 years, a PharmD takes 4 years. So in combination, probably about 6 years for that dual degree.
All right. The next one that we see on the screen, is it necessary to do PharmD in US if I wish to do work on basis of my B Pharm? What is it that needs to follow?
Yeah, no, you do not have to do a PharmD. So the PharmD is that 4-year professional degree. What might be better for you if your goal is to work in industry might be to pursue a Master's of Science degree, which is a 2-year degree. And so there's some different areas you can focus on there. But I wouldn't recommend a PharmD unless you really want to get a license and be a practicing pharmacist. If you want to go work in pharmacy in industry, one of our Masters of Science degrees would be better.
Yeah, this one I think more or less we addressed.
Yeah. So the PharmD is compulsory. Yeah.
Yeah. So for applying for a broad basic minimum, how much experience is necessary?
Most of our master's programs, you don't really have to have work experience. It's really, after you complete your undergraduate degree, your B Pharm, then you can apply. If you do have work experience, it certainly helps strengthen your application. But for our MS programs, it's not a requirement that you have work experience.
All right, so we can take in more questions after we hear from Khyati. So can we now bring in Khyati? Fareen, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Terrence. And I'm sure students would like to hear from you more after Khyati talks in as well. All right. Khyati, can you please turn on your microphone and your video?
All right.
All
Shall
right, there you go. Yeah, please go ahead, Kathy.
I?
All
Okay.
yours.
Sure. So, hello everyone. This is Khyati Ashtekar, and first of all, thank you, Terence, for inviting me to speak as an alumni for USC, and thank you, Khwaja, for providing this platform where I can share my experience as an Indian student who has pursued a degree in the United States. So I'll tell a little bit about myself. Just like you all, I did a bachelor's in pharmacy from India. I finished that in 2018. I came to USC in 2018 to pursue a master's degree in regulatory science. And I just graduated recently during these unprecedented times. So I just graduated in May. Currently, I'm working as a regulatory affairs intern at a medical device company known as Third Pole Therapeutics. And prior to that, during my degree, I had opportunities to interview, to do certain internships. So one of them was at USC itself within the regulatory department. And then other one was again a medical device company during the summer period. So why I chose USC? The number one reason is because back then when I sat down to do my applications for regulatory degree, USC was one of them that provided a STEM degree, a STEM designated regulatory degree. And as you all know, it is important to pursue a degree which is STEM designated. So after your graduation, you get almost 3 years to work on your student visa. And as such, most of the degrees, most of the courses provided by the USC School of Pharmacy are STEM designated, so that is a plus point. And other than that, just like Terence mentioned, it is the number one private pharmacy school, so that's like a brand in itself. Other than that, talking about the faculties and the curriculum, so the curriculum is curated to meet the latest industry standards and requirements, and the faculties are highly knowledgeable, and you see that passion in them to 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 teach to spread the knowledge of pharmacy. And other than that, to keep the students engaged, the school also conducts various seminars and workshops and career events where speakers are invited from the industry. So I think that's a good way of learning, other than what you learn during your classroom courses. And the other advantage is that you get to network with people in the industry, which eventually helps you, which may help you when you graduate and you're looking for a job. Other than that, I feel the campus, the school uh, is really attractive, because after all, it is in the Hollywood city. So that is also something which attracted me a lot. And the most important thing is the weather. So Southern California overall has got really adaptable weather. It's not at all extreme. So people like us from India can adjust to the weather conditions really well. Other than that, the university also has various extracurricular activities going on. So, as you all know, it's more on the campus when things were normal. But right now, still a lot of clubs are making efforts to hold events online, just to keep the students engaged, and to have that, to provide a platform for interaction with other students. Talking about Indian clubs, so there are a couple of Indian clubs as well at the campus. So you get to celebrate festivals, and there's a cricket club. So those all used to be there on the campus when things were normal. Right now as well, these clubs hold these festival celebrations and on online. So you get that home feeling over here, because everyone is kind of away from home, so we kind of try to celebrate it together. Other than that, I would say, like, this is all about my experience. I feel I took the best decision of my life, coming to the United States, and of course, getting a degree from the University of Southern California. um, before ending, I would just like to say, just a small piece of advice to you all, that coming here is not easy. It takes a lot of effort to come here. Of course, your parents invest a lot. You are coming away. You are trying. You would be staying away from your family. So you just got to be confident when you come here. Don't like be very scared. Just go on with the flow, because things would be really different in the beginning. Everything is different, the culture, the people, the lifestyle. But I would just say, just give time to yourself in the beginning, and eventually things would start falling in place. And yeah, before any, I would just like to say, before coming here, do take cooking lessons from your mom. It'll definitely make your life easier. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And I'm sure students listening to you would connect with all that you mentioned. Thank you so much for taking out time. And if there are any questions that you would like to address that you see in the chat box, I mean, anything that kind of relates to you, you could maybe, as a very
Sure.
recent student.
Yeah, of course. For my application, I appeared for GRE, and I also gave TOEFL. So these were two exams, competitive exams that I appeared for the application at USC.
Okay, so yeah, those were the exams that you
Mhm.
wrote. All right. So we have another one that you see on your screen.
Uh,
Type of jobs he's wanting to know.
So usually, students doing degrees under core courses, pharmaceutical sciences, usually get jobs in the industry, as Terence mentioned, especially in the R&D, where you are mostly working on the formulation and development. So as far as I know, those are the jobs that you get. Majority of them are in the industry. Maybe Terence can add something to it if you would like to.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring in Terence again because
Of
there
course.
are a lot of questions. Um, all right, yeah. So, would you like to address a couple more?
I think pertaining to scholarships, I don't have much knowledge about that, but yeah, there are some scholarships provided by the department, and I definitely think Terence can touch base on that. So yeah, the department does have some scholarship programs for the students, incoming students.
All right. So thank you so much, Kathy. I think you can still stay around because there could be some questions that
Yeah,
may come up. So we can bring you
sure.
in again. So
Mhm.
can Fareen, can you please bring in Dr. Terence again so that he could address those questions, and then maybe we could bring in Dr. Anam also to address a few questions. Yes, Dr. Terence, you could.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. These are very good questions. Thank you, Kathy, for your presentation. Great advice about definitely learning how to cook from your mother. That's something I'm always grateful for. Learning, standing next to my mother and learning how to cook some things. But scholarships. There's a question about scholarships. So we do so for our PhD students. If you're interested in pursuing a PhD, our PhD students are fully funded. So it's highly competitive, but you will be fully funded if you are selected for one of our PhD programs. But for the master's programs, we don't have full scholarships. But as Kathy mentioned, each department has some partial scholarships that they can offer to the strongest candidates to persuade you to choose USC over another program. So partial scholarships are available. Let's see. Yeah, Kathy mentioned the testing requirements. So GRE, actually for fall 2021, the GRE has been waived because of COVID. So we're not requiring that for this coming fall. but most programs do typically require the GRE as well as TOEFL.
Yeah, so we have
TOEFL
this
or
one as
IELTS.
well. Yeah, so the student wanted to know about the job opportunities. He is currently pursuing master's in pharmacy.
Okay, so I think coming directly, if I'm understanding the question, coming directly from India to work
Yeah.
in the U.S., that's going to be challenging.
Mm.
With an M-Pharm, I think certainly you could be competitive for jobs in the industry, but mostly if pharmaceutical companies, if they're hiring foreign hires, they're hiring from people who are studying in the United States and have, for example, OPT, so that they can hire them for a year or two and make sure that they want that person to be an employee, and then they'll sponsor an H-1B. But it's, I think, extremely difficult to try to get a sponsorship for an H-1B, unless you're working for that company in India or overseas. So a pathway you might consider, on top of your M-Pharm, is to do one of our master's programs, a 2-year master's. Maybe it would be regulatory sciences, maybe pharmaceutical sciences, depending on what you really want to focus on. But being in one of those master's programs is for 2 years. That's a 2-year investment of time and money in that program. But that's really going to open up doors for you working in the pharmaceutical industry in the United States, because you will have opportunities to do internships, but then also OPT and ultimately a permanent position with one of the companies. So I would recommend looking at an MS program as a stepping stone to that job in the U.S. Okay, so question here: after qualifying, NAPLEX
NAPLEX. Mhm.
practice.
So after qualifying NAPLEX, can somebody do, practice hospitality? I mean, it's a little vague.
I'm not sure what you mean by hospitality, but
Yeah,
if you mean working in a hospital, working as
I
a
guess so. Yeah,
pharmacist,
yeah, I guess so. That's what he
yeah,
means.
absolutely. So PharmD, and you saw one of the top choices of our PharmD students. So once they obtain that license, they then pursue a career as a pharmacist in a hospital setting. So yes, that is a popular career direction for our PharmD students, and that's actually there's growing demand for pharmacists in hospital settings in the United States. I was just looking at some of the labor statistics, and more hospitals are increasing the number of pharmacists that they have on site. Oh,
All
that's a
right.
good
What
question.
is the
So
average
average,
living? Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, Los Angeles is it's it's among the most expensive cities in the United States, but it's not the most expensive. I think Dr. Tanvir in the Bay Area can tell you that it's more expensive to live in the Bay Area in San Francisco, Northern California. It's probably more expensive. New York is more expensive. There are a lot of different. So Los Angeles is it's a sprawling, a very spread out, a very huge city. Overall, between 15 million in the area. And so some neighborhoods, some places you can live maybe out a little bit further from the center would be less expensive. But I think that you're looking at, a typical, renting a 1-bedroom, for example, it's going to be about $1,500 US. Many of our graduate students share apartments with other students, and so that lowers the price. And then in terms of food and other expenses, I would say an additional 1,200 or so for those expenses. I could provide, if you email me, I could provide you some more specific numbers from the USC financial aid office. But that's a rough estimate.
Yeah, and of course, if Dr. Anam wants to add to that, she can join in, um, you know, simultaneously. All right, let's see if we have some more questions. Yeah, there we go. Yes, you're on mute, Dr. Anam.
Oh, okay. How
Yeah.
about, is that better?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. I agree that relative to the living expenses in the Bay Area, Los Angeles is slightly on the cheaper side, but it is still one of the more expensive places to live within the United States. I personally grew up closer to Los Angeles, and I think the rent is 1,500, 1,600 is a good average, which can obviously be reduced if you decide to share rent. But it definitely, you have to keep in mind the cost of living there with price for food, groceries, transportation. It is one of the more expensive places in the United States to live.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Anam.
You
So we
know,
have another one there. Currently, admissions are open for master's um,
yes,
program in
that's right.
pharmacy. Hmm.
Yes, our admissions are open. The deadline for our master's programs for fall 21 is January 15th. The admission for PhD, so PhD actually does not require the GRE, but generally you're going to have, it's very helpful if you have work experience, research experience for PhD. Those are research intensive programs. So some industry experience really is important to have to gain admission. It's highly competitive, as I mentioned. We don't take a lot of PhD students, but if you are accepted as a PhD student, you will receive funding for the whole time that you are here pursuing that degree, because you will be part of a professor's research team. The way our PhD is structured, if you're looking specifically at the pharmaceutical sciences, we bring in students for our three different areas in pharmaceutical sciences, and they all take classes together as a cohort in the first year. So they take the foundational courses in the PhD program, and then they choose one of the directions they want to go into. They could go into pharmaceutical sciences, clinical and experimental therapeutics, or molecular pharmacology, toxicology. So one of those three directions. I would recommend visiting our website, and we have faculty biographies, and so you can really look at the research work that our faculty members are doing, and that will give you a sense of a faculty member whom you might want to work with on their research team. And so if you can, in your application to the PhD program, kind of make the case that you would be a good fit for that particular faculty member, then that can work in your favor.
All right. I think we'll just take in maybe a couple more because there are some overlaps in the questions as well. And of course, the students are encouraged to email us. I mean, Dr. Terrence also shared his email. And so you're most welcome to write to us, and we'll be happy to assist.
Yeah, quality assurance. Again, most of the graduates in that area are going into private industry and really working. There are entire departments within private pharmaceutical companies that really focus on the regulatory aspects, how those companies need to navigate the regulatory aspects of bringing their products to market. So that's where most of our graduates are going. But there's a percentage, probably 25% go into government agencies that are involved in regulation as well at the state and federal levels. So organizations like the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration.
All right. So we'll take in the last question. It says after. All right, go ahead. Yeah. GRE is necessary for Pharm admission.
Generally, yes. It's because of COVID, we've waived the GRE requirement for next fall, and it hasn't been decided yet whether we're going to reinstate the GRE requirement moving forward. There are debates in our graduate programs on whether just to get rid of the GRE. So for right now, for next fall, it's not required, but for fall 2022, it might be required again. So we'll have to check that.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Terence, for taking out time, especially on a Friday evening. Thank you so much, Kathy, as well. So before we kind of wind this up, I would like to invite Dr. Preeti Chitkara from KIET group of institutions. She just wants to thank our expert panelists. And before I do that, everyone, please, on your screens, you can see these free scored practice test vouchers that Pearson is happily sharing with us. So we will definitely share this with you all. And also, I would encourage you to stay in touch with us. Join us on our Facebook, and you would definitely uh, learn, keep learning with whatever we keep doing down the line. All right. So, Fareen, can you please invite Dr. Preeti Chitkara? I mean, can you make her the presenter, please? All right. So, Dr. Chitkara, you just need to turn on your video and your audio. All right. There we go.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So, honorable organizers, our most valued invited panelists, faculty members from KIET, and our beloved students of pharmacy. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of KIET Group of Institutions, and more specifically, KIET School of Pharmacy, let me call it the Fraternity of Educationists, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing the webinar on pharmacy careers in United States. So, education is one of the focal areas of all the nations, and the studies in pharmaceutical domain are one of the pivotal for the health of all the citizens. So, our students were quite keen to gain knowledge in the opportunities of career and further studies in their field at an international level. Thereby, I believe that this topic has been most appropriate and is the need of the hour as it brought the expertise and experience of the panelists to the table, and I offer my heartfelt gratitude to all of them for engaging the audience in such fruitful, constructive, and open exchanges through this webinar. A big thank you to Dr. Anam Tanvir, MD at San Francisco, California, for her views towards the career opportunities for pharmacists in US. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for her explanation of what has been her experience in the relevant field. There has been a lot to take, madam. You have been truly inspirational, and I believe your words would certainly leave a mark on the hearts and minds of the listeners. I am extremely grateful to Dr. Terence Graham, the SIO School of Pharmacy, Southern California, for sharing the information about the courses and scholarship opportunities for the students at the University of Southern California, in fact. So your suggestions and address to the queries and questions of the students, they really work miraculously, and it is truly appreciated. Thank you so much for that. I also express my gratitude to Ms. Kathy, an MS and practicing pharmacist, of course, an Indian. So, for enlightening our students on the post study work opportunities for pharmacists in pharmacy and your own experience at the University of Southern California. So, we are really impressed, and probably our students would have learned a lot out of that. And now take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to the ones who are the main source of inspiration behind such webinars. Yes, the audience. So we are euphorically enthralled to receive the participation from pharmacy students in the form of questions and queries and their live participation, active participation. And I believe all your queries have been well addressed by the speakers, students. I truly appreciate and thank the faculty members and the students of KIET School of Pharmacy for joining this session and making it quite rich in learning perspectives. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. So the wheels start rolling weeks ago, in fact. So it requires planning and a lot of background work. And we've been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of highly motivated and dedicated colleagues from Simplet, including Mr. Yasser, Mr. Khwaja, Fareen, and other professionals who are exceptionally result oriented and who have helped us through and through to organize this successful webinar, and they have gone out of their comfort zones to help us out. My earnest thanks to all of them. Finally, I would take this opportunity to place in record our hearty acknowledgements to Kite Management, the head of Department Kite School of Pharmacy, Deepti ma'am, because she has been working through and through with me, and all my colleagues from KIT for the guidance and support. My sincere thanks to one and all who were involved directly or indirectly in organizing the event. Take care, stay safe, and thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Chitkara, for those lovely words. And thank you, everyone, for joining in, whether from India or United States. And we'll definitely connect again soon. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye bye. Take care.